The MSc in Human Resource Management is a Level 9 programme designed specifically to help students develop a career in human resource management.
HR are now partners and operate at the top level in companies, supporting the company achieve its goals and doing that through its people.
The content of the programme has been carefully designed to reflect the realities of the HR profession. Key issues like data analytics, creating healthy organisations, talent development have all been included in the programme, as well as the pivotal aspects of HR such as recruitment and selection and performance management.
So for most jobs in HR, a CIPD accredited qualification is mandatory, and if you study with us, you can achieve that in 1 year.
It's a programme that seeks to blend academic research and current academic research with very experienced industry people.
The lecturers have really good practical backgrounds, so they're able to relate the material in a very practical way for the benefit of the students.
The programme itself is delivered on a full-time basis but also a part-time basis. Full-time students complete the programme within 12 months. Part-time students complete the programme across 2 years. HR is a discipline that's needed in every organisation around the world. This programme will give students a strong foundation for launching their career in terms of employability.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Trish O'Shaughnessy, and I am the Postgraduate Programme Manager here in Cork University Business School. I'd first like to welcome everybody to our very first webinar in a series of webinars that we are running over the next 6 weeks. Our next webinar will take place on the 13th of May at 11 a.m, where we will look at the impact of COVID-19 on the food industry. Today's webinar is an issue that's quite personal and quite pertinent this time to a lot of people. It's the effects, the psychological effects of working from home. So to give you a brief overview of how the webinar will run, I will shortly introduce you to our key speaker, which is Dr. Ultan Sherman. Ultan is the Programme Director of our MSc in Human Resource Management. Ultan will talk for 15 or 20 minutes around the issue of the psychological effects of working from home. We encourage you to ask any questions on our YouTube channel during this time, and we will have moderators answering those questions. We will then come back to myself, where I'll give you information on how you actually apply for a postgraduate programme in the Cork University Business School in UCC. So I'd now like to introduce you to our key speaker, Dr. Ultan Sherman, the Programme Director of the Human Resource Management Programme. Ultan?
Thank you very much, Trish. Thank you all for tuning into today's webinar. So as Trish said, I'm the Programme Director of the MSc in Human Resource Management. And I'll speak a little bit about the programme itself in a few minutes. But first, I think it might be interesting to look a little more at a very topical issue in business at the moment, the whole idea of working from home. Of course, not everybody is working from home. Many people are still at work on site, but many people are now probably for the first time in their careers are actually working from home. And what I'm looking at today really is kind of introducing the conversation around how working from home can affect us psychologically. Suppose I've been looking at some of the, the media in the last few weeks and the coverage of the pandemic, and these are some of the terms that I've come across. It's the idea that this pandemic is unprecedented. You know, it's been described as once in 100 years. Many people are talking about the great unknown, in that we don't really know when this is going to end. We're all waiting, I suppose, impatiently for a vaccine. But I think one thing that's worth highlighting is that all the experts in this area are saying that this will pass, be it in a few months, sometime next year, but this is temporary. It could be here for a relatively long period of time, but it is temporary. It is going to pass. And it just is just a picture that I came across a few days ago. Many of you would probably identify with this scenario, trying to work from home, but at the same time trying to balance your other commitments, like, you know, raising your kids, feeding your kids, looking after your parents, and other responsibilities we have as well. So it is an interesting time to be examining work and working relationships, but of course, from a practical point of view, it can be very challenging for many of us. As I said, there's been a lot of media coverage in the last few weeks on the whole idea of working from home. A recent headline I saw on the RTE website, this idea of all you need to know about working from home. And of course, it's not just an Irish issue, it's an international issue. A headline recently from CNN, they're talking about, the dark side of working from home, the negative psychological impacts in terms of how working from home can be a lonely experience for many people. And a bit closer to home then, the BBC website, they talk about kind of these tips about how to work effectively from all around the world. But I suppose it is worth highlighting that while many of us are working from home for the first time, the whole idea of home working or remote working, whatever term we want to use, it's really been around for the last quarter of a century, maybe even a little bit more. As technology has improved, many of us do have the option or are taking the option of working from home. So it's from a research point of view and from a business point of view, this has been an issue for the best part of 20-25 years. I'd say perhaps most famously or most infamously, you may be familiar with this story already. Back in 2013, the CEO of Yahoo was Marissa Mayer. She sent a memo to all Yahoo staff saying anybody who currently has a work from home arrangement that is now being cancelled, and you have to report to your line manager to come up with an arrangement where you are working in the office from now on. So pretty much overnight, she got rid of home working. And she was heavily criticized at the time, saying that she was out of touch and that Yahoo was supposed to be this progressive modern organization. And the idea that it would stop people working from home was seen as kind of, I suppose, as a backward step in the industry. So it's of course a very topical issue, but home working has been an issue in business for 20-25 years. And researchers, work psychologists, HR researchers have been studying home working in a number of different ways. Okay, so if we were to look at the whole idea of the psychology of working from home, so how does working from home affect us? Well, if we wanted to understand this in more detail, it would require us to look at a number of different factors. For example, it very much depends on the person. Are you a person who is quite emotionally stable? Are you quite capable? Are you quite resourceful? You tend to remain calm in stressful situations. So you might say a person like this might be able to work quite effectively from home, okay? Or you might say, well, rather than looking at the person, and that's very important, we also have to look at the job itself. Is a person working in a very, very stressful, demanding, challenging job where they're on the phone for 7-8 hours a day, where it's a case that they log in at 8 o'clock in the morning and they can't really log out until 6 o'clock in the evening, such are the demands of that particular job, then if that is the case, it might be very challenging then for that particular person to work from the home environment because of the nature of the job. But also it's very important as well to examine the home environment. So what kind of environment will you be working in if you are now working from home for the first time? And again, this picture here might, many of you will be able to identify with this, the idea that you're trying to work, but also look after your kids, babies, toddlers, grumpy teenagers, maybe looking after your parents and other personal commitments as well. So really to understand how working from home has a psychological impact on us, we have to look at a number of different factors, and we can't just assume that working from home has the same impact on everybody in the same way. It's really kind of a product of looking at the person, the job itself, and the home environment. But those psychologists that would be looking at this whole idea of working from home, and people from a HR background looking at, well, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities of working from home? From a psychological perspective, we'd often look at 3 different dimensions. We would look at the whole idea of the emotional side of our psychological makeup. We would be looking then at our behaviors, how are we behaving during this whole idea of working from home? And also we'd be looking at the cognitive aspect of psychology and how do we interpret information and how do we make sense of our job in a different way. So if we were to look at working from home from an emotional point of view, I would say that the coverage of this has been a little bit imbalanced. Most coverage in the media is talking about the negative effects of working from home. For example, the CNN article there on the idea of increased likelihood of loneliness, the idea of how can you combat anxiety and things like that when you're working from home. And of course, working from home for many people can be a very emotional thing, and it can have a profound impact on them, particularly if it's a very, very challenging job and it's not a very, I suppose, conducive work environment. But I would also like to highlight that there's also a lot of positive and benefits from working from home as well. But if we were to look at the more negative aspects initially, you might say, well, this working from home scenario during the pandemic, it's been such a rapid transformation, and it's been a very urgent change. So we would talk about the urgency of change, and it's been inflicted upon us. So many of us would have been working, and then suddenly we get an email or we get a phone call from the boss saying, we are shutting down tomorrow, you have to work from home for the foreseeable future. So for many of us, this change, while we were somewhat aware of it in the background, it happened to us quite quickly. And then for many of us, we'd very little or no say over the transformation. So this would, what we would say in the field would be reduced autonomy. When we have reduced autonomy, that means we've less say over how things work and less say over the day-to-day running of our job. And that can be very challenging for many of us as well. Of course, everyone is in the same situation here. There's an unknown end date. We don't know when this pandemic is going to finish. We don't know really when we're going to be going back into our offices, if at all. Obviously, the government have kind of set out, I suppose, a kind of a route map or a schedule for the next few months. But of course, that's open to change. So there's certainly increased ambiguity in terms of when we're actually going to go back to work. And that can be very challenging and disconcerting for many people. And of course, many people are worried about their future. Will my job even exist in a couple of months' time? And will it be linked to how I'm going to perform in the next few weeks and the next few months at home? So that then can give this increased sense of pressure. And again, that can be very challenging for many people. So absolutely working from home can lead to emotional difficulties like anxiety and things like this feeling of loneliness and things like that. But of course, working from home can also have positive benefits. Many people are saying the idea that, you know, they're enjoying spending more time with their family, of course, up to a point. Everybody needs a break, of course. But the idea that, you know, I'm enjoying having breakfast with my family, or the fact that I can go for a walk with my parents or my kids at lunchtime or whatever it is, that I have more time to spend with, you know, my family. That's a very positive thing and a very kind of a positive outcome for your emotions. Of course, many people are working more creatively and working a little bit more differently because they're now working online. And again, working creatively and being a bit more innovative, that can create a sense of positivity as well. And that can be a kind of a good thing for many people. Some people now have a greater control over their schedule, and they would have arranged some kind of, schedule or routine with their line manager saying, look, I can work for 3 hours in the morning, but I have to take a few hours off around lunchtime because my partner is working, whatever the case may be. So it's the idea then that you then maybe have a bit more autonomy over your schedule, and then that can be a positive thing for your emotions. You feel in control of your working day. And of course, then working from home is not just about the day-to-day working. It's also about what you do in your spare time, the idea of what you do to disconnect from the challenges of work. And many people know, because of this lockdown and the idea that there are restrictions on how far we can travel from our home, many people are now discovering new hobbies and, you know, new things to do with their time. So in many ways, working from home can also lead to more positive emotions. So if we leave aside the emotional aspect of working from home, if we looked at the behavioral side of working from home in a little bit more detail, the obvious big question that every organization is focusing on and has been focusing on for the last 20 or 25 years when it comes to remote working or home working is, well, can employees who work from home, can they still be productive? Or are you more productive when you're on site, or are you more productive when you're working from home? This has been an age-old question really within human resource management and work and organizational psychology. So what about productivity? There's no real definitive answer. The answer is it depends. It depends on the person, it depends on the job, it depends on the organization, it depends on how you even measure productivity, because different organizations will measure productivity in a different way. So there's no clear-cut answer. Are you more or less productive working from home? It very much depends on the person and the job. So there's too many factors at play to say conclusively. But what is absolutely true is that we are now behaving differently in terms of how we work. You know, our work patterns are different. The traditional 9 to 5 is now probably being replaced for many people, and that, they might work 9 to 12 and take a few hours off in the afternoon and then come back in late afternoon. Some people are probably now working into the evening time, just so that they remain somewhat productive and they remain, I suppose, connected and tied in with the organization. Of course, most of us are now having virtual meetings, and you might notice changes in behavior. Like some people, when they were on site, may never have spoken up when there was a face-to-face meeting, and these people now might be very vocal and and they might contribute greatly to these virtual meetings. And the opposite might be true as well. And there could be a wide variety of reasons for this. But certainly, from a behavioral point of view, we are now behaving a little bit differently than we would when we were working on site. And as I said, HR would have a great interest in this. And certainly from a psychology point of view, the switching off, the idea of achieving good work-life balance, that's very important as well from a behavioral point of view. Of course, as I said, it's more difficult now with social distancing. Most outlets are closed, etc. But again, most people now are recognizing that this is an opportunity to discover something new. You know, your garden might be looking really well because you've been working on it for the last few weeks and you've suddenly discovered that you enjoy gardening. You might be taking up other activities as well. And this idea of having a good work-life balance and identifying those activities outside of the work environment, they're very important for you to actually maintain a good work-life balance. And I suppose, and to behave and perform effectively. And then I suppose the last area that we would look on from a psychological perspective in terms of working from home would be the cognitive focus. So it's the idea, do we perceive and process information differently when we're working from home? So many of you might view your job differently. So do I really want to spend 3 hours every day commuting? So typically before this pandemic happened, some of us listening today might have a 3-hour commute every day. And you might say, look, do I really want to go back to that? So then you're starting to process and view your job in a different light. Some of you might look at your career more broadly. So I've been looking for a promotion for the last number of years. But when I think about it, if I do get a promotion, does that mean then I get to spend less time doing the things that I want to do, spending less time with my family? Again, so maybe you're reassessing your initial plans or your initial expectations. And of course, assessing your work-life balance is very important as well. So because we are so restricted in what we can do outside of the home environment, it's the idea that maybe some people are only recognizing or certainly becoming more aware that they need to find new hobbies. I can't go to the pub, I can't go to the cafe. Maybe I need to do more exercise. Maybe I need to, identify some hobby that's going to give me a greater sense of work-life balance. And then I suppose from a HR point of view, a very important question here is, well, what's the responsibility of the organization or the HR function in working from home? Okay, most organizations I think are quite reasonable in that they recognize that people are now still adjusting to this new environment. And this is a new environment for many of us who have never worked from home before. And we're still finding our feet trying to identify a good routine. And I suppose different research has been looked at the whole idea of entering a new environment. I've seen recent articles online talking about the honeymoon period of working from home, that in the initial few weeks, many people think this is wonderful. They can stay in bed a little bit longer, spend more time with their family. They're under a little bit less pressure and things like that. But after a while, maybe the honeymoon period starts to wear off and they start to experience a bit more stress and they find it difficult to adjust. Whereas other research say that from about 6 weeks to 12 weeks, that's when you start identifying your work patterns and you start kind of falling into a routine or a pattern that works for you and the organization. But absolutely, we're still in the adjustment phase here. This is still early in the whole idea of working from home for the first time. Interestingly, if you had a weak working relationship before this happened, this could be magnified during this time. So if you didn't trust your leader, or if the team had a poor dynamic, if there was a lack of trust, poor communication, this could be magnified during this time. And again, many organizations might be struggling with the challenges of maintaining a healthy team and an effective team, but also how can you lead effectively during this time too? And that, again, that's a challenge and a question facing the HR function. The HR function now is investing lots of time in their staff in terms of training, one-to-one coaching, having conversations about their job, more effective communication, but also investing resources as well. When I go out for a walk in the afternoon, I often see delivery vans delivering equipment now to people so they can work from home, like drawing boards and laptops and things like that. So there's a big investment taking place at this moment in time, even though it is very challenging for every organization. Those of you that are interested in HR from a strategic point of view, unfortunately, lots of organizations are now thinking about the future, and they're trying to identify those employees who be retained, those employees that will be redeployed in the organization, and unfortunately, those employees that will be made redundant in the next few months. And that is going to happen, unfortunately. That's just one of the consequences of this pandemic. And of course, I suppose kind of looking to the future, many organizations are now trying to learn. So like, what are the HR lessons that we can learn from this crisis so that we can work more effectively if something like this were to happen again, however unlikely that is, but what lessons can we learn to make sure that we are a smarter and more effective organization in the future? Okay, so they're just some of the many questions facing the HR function at this moment in time. So, which then kind of leads me into, I suppose, talk a little bit more about the program itself, the MSc in Human Resource Management. I hope you like that segue. So it is a Master's in Human Resource Management. It is due to start this September. You will notice there in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we have the CIPD logo. So the CIPD is the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. It's the accrediting body for any HR program in Ireland and the UK, and this program is accredited by the CIPD. This means from an employability point of view, when you graduate from this program, you have a CIPD accredited qualification, and that makes you very employable, more employable than another person who doesn't have a CIPD accredited qualification, who is looking for a job in the HR arena. In terms of the specifics of the program, just a little asterisk here, you can do it on a full-time basis or a part-time basis. So the program has been available on a part-time basis for the last 4 years, but this year we are now adding a full-time variant or a full-time option for the first time. So those students that want to take it on a full-time basis can take it within 1 year, and those students that want to take it on a part-time basis complete the program across 2 years. It will be a blend of classroom and online delivery. In terms of the timetable, while we're awaiting official confirmation from the university, but also official confirmation from the government in terms of how universities are going to deliver classes back in September, October, when universities reopen. At the moment, the timetable is going to be 2 days a week for full-time students per semester, and that will be roughly from lunchtime to early evening, approximately 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. roughly. And then those students that are taking the program on a part-time basis, they do it 1 day a week per semester, again, lunchtime to early evening. Again, we're not 100% sure yet on the days. We're awaiting confirmation from the university. The last 4 years, the program has been delivered on a Tuesday and a Thursday. We've been seeking those days again. But as I said, once we have that information in the coming weeks, we will share that information with those interested in the program. In terms of the content of the program, you would have seen from the introductory video. So we've been, I suppose, spending quite a long time focusing on the content of the program to make sure that we are covering the pivotal aspects of HR, such as strategic HRM or talent management, employment relationships. But also we wanted to capture the more contemporary and very relevant aspects of HR that are happening at this very moment in time. And that's why we've included modules such as data analytics, creating healthy workplaces, etc. So it's the idea that we're hoping our graduates, and this is very much the aim of the program, that our graduates will come out from a master's with a master's in human resource management with a good core understanding of the key aspects of HR management, but also have a good understanding of the more contemporary issues such as healthy workplaces and data analytics. And again, from an employability point of view, that would then put you all in a good position from the organization's perspective. So I'll be sticking around with those of you who have any questions. Feel free to do so. Just in terms of the entry requirements, to be eligible for the Masters in Human Resource Management, candidates must hold an NFQ Level 8 Honours Primary degree, so a minimum of a 2-1 in any degree. So we've had applications on the program so far from people in social science. We've had applications from people in psychology, from people in engineering, a wide variety of fields in terms of applications so far. If you don't have a level 8 primary degree, you might have an equivalent such as a higher diploma. Now, those applicants who do not have a level 8 honours primary degree or equivalent, but if they've been working, let's say, in the broad HR field for a significant period of time, and if they have other qualifications and other professional experience, they may also be offered a place on the program, but they would have to set out this experience as part of the entry requirement. So if any of you do have any questions about the program itself, in terms of the content or the timetable or things like that, you can contact me and my email address here. As I said, I'm the program director, or you can contact my colleague, Siobhan Boyle. She's the program manager, and she'll be able to help you with any queries you have too. So I'm sticking around for a few minutes, and myself and Trish will answer any questions that some of you might have about the program. So thank you all for listening. I hope you continue to be as effective as you can be working from home. And thank you again for tuning in, and I'll pass you now over to Trish.
Thank you, Ultan. So I am going to just give a brief overview of how you would actually apply for the MSc in Human Resource Management in Cork University Business School. So all of our applications are online at www.pac.ie/UCC. So that's the Postgraduate Application Centre, PAC. So if you're ready to make an application for the MSc in Human Resource Management, what do you need? So if you are applying from Ireland, you're going to need your PPS number. If you're a UCC student, you'll need your UCC student number. If you're applying from outside of UCC, all you need to do is upload transcripts of your results. Doesn't matter if you haven't finished your degree yet, you can upload the transcripts of all your results that you have so far if you're in third year or fourth year of your final year. You'll need your credit card details. So the application fee is €50 to apply online for up to 3 programs. And most importantly, an active email account that you check regularly. So all of your offers, your conditional offers, information about the program will be all emailed to you. You won't get anything in the post until maybe September, October, when you'll be getting your registration information. So you can make one application and you can include up to 3 taught programs on your application form. So if you are thinking of applying for the MSc in Human Resource Management, but you might also be looking at other programs within the CUBS. So you might decide, actually, I'd like to apply also for the MSc in Cyber Risk, for example, and I'd like to put down a third option as well for an MSc in the finance area. It's not like the CAO, so it's not a preference-based application system. If you apply for 3 programs, each of those programs will go off to either a team or the program director to assess, and you could actually get 3 offers depending on whether you meet the entry requirements or not. But it is important to note you can only accept 1 program. So at the end, you can either accept your MSc in Human Resource Management or maybe your MSc in Cyber Risk, or the third MSc that you applied for as well, but you can only accept 1 of them at any one time. It's also not necessary to complete all program choices. So if you're 100% sure you want to apply just for the MSc in Human Resource Management, you can just put that one down in your application. Turnaround for the decisions is usually quite quick. As soon as you've updated all your information, it doesn't take long to apply online. It's quite a simple application. Most of our programs within CUBS, you don't need to fill in a personal statement. It's all based on your final degree results. So 15-20 minutes max, you can apply online for the programs. I also offer one-to-one online sessions. So these sessions used to take place in an office before pre-COVID, where I would sit down with students to look at their options through the whole of our portfolio in the CUBS area. We look at the entry requirements, see where your strengths lie, what programs that you're looking at, whether you're eligible for them, and your career prospects. I'm now offering those online sessions on a one-to-one basis over Zoom or Skype. They take between 30 minutes and 30 minutes to an hour, really, depending on how much we want to go through and how much we want to look at. Usually at the end of this, we've narrowed it down to 3 programs that you can apply for. So if you did want to set up any of those sessions, I have my email address down there. So it's p.o'shaughnessy@ucc.ie, and we can set up a session for you. It's obviously free of charge at a time that's convenient for you. So that was a very brief overview of actually applying for any postgraduate program in the School of CUBS and UCC. As Ultan mentioned, we will be around for the next few minutes just answering questions on YouTube. And you also have our emails if you'd like to email us any other questions at any other time that might come up for you. So just to close off the webinar, I'd like to thank Ultan for giving his presentation today. I'd like to thank everybody who logged in and participated in the webinar today. It's much appreciated. And there was a lot of background team organizing the webinar itself. So I'd like to thank them as well. So thank you everybody again, and I hope you enjoy the webinar today.